Now here is an example of how we use Excel in finance. We build models to understand companies' balance sheets, income statements, and cash flow. We won't spend most of our time here yet, but know that we are building skills towards building these models for ourselves. In the meantime, let's start off with some basics. Let's build ourselves a very simple income statement to start. So basic income statement, or P&L, for profit and loss, has high-level buckets like revenue, cost of goods sold, which high-level equals gross profit. Then there's additional expenses, let's call them SG&A as an example. And once we deduct that, we get something called EBITDA. Then we take in depreciation and amortization, and then taxes, and that's what we get net income. Now here, let us put in some numbers to represent what an example P&L would look like. And you see that here we want to put in a formula for gross profit, EBITDA, and net income. Think of Excel as a calculator that can help you do a set of calculations based off of inputs and give you outputs. And in our example, when we calculate net income, EBITDA, or gross profit, all of that takes inputs from the user, which in our case are any scenario where there's a value or there's a number in the cell. And then the formulas are the calculations that are automatic. So what that means is when we make an adjustment or when we make a change to any of the inputs, the outputs automatically calculate, and Excel will do that for us. And that saves a lot of time versus using a calculator or punching in a number or doing mental math, because Excel is able to update all of the calculations. Excel is able to do this for us extremely fast. And in our case, we had given Excel a numerical value of 3,000, and now we can change it to a different number or replace it with a formula, and all the calculations after it will update accordingly. Now here we just created an Excel sheet. We hard-coded a bunch of numbers and created formulas within the sheet itself. We're not referencing any external data. We're not pulling in any data extracts from, let's say, SAP or Bloomberg or whatever other system. Here we're only punching in numbers. But in the workplace and in your career, you will see data sets where you have to pull in numbers. A file with raw data that captures many, many different things, and our jobs is to take that information, consolidate it, and then summarize it in a way and build it into a model that works for us. So here as an example, we have another sheet just named a data tab in this simple example. Here we have a couple of columns. We have column A, which is the company name. In column B, you have the financial metric. So in our case, in our simple example, we have revenue, expenses, D&A, and taxes. The same P&L lines that we would have seen in the previous tab. Column C, you see a couple of items, namely revenue that is broken up by product. Column D is the dollar amount, which is the number that we have to build our P&Ls with. And then the last column is units. If we come back to our P&L and now we need to build a profit and loss statement using that data instead of hard coding numbers, how would we do that? Let's introduce a set of formulas. They start off extremely simple. You can do basic arithmetic using formulas, sum, average. But in order to be efficient and to be good at Excel, you have to learn more formulas than just the basics. And the first one is a set of formulas that are conditional. And what that means is you can do certain calculations based off a certain set of criteria. So in our case, we can take a SUMIFS to pull from the data tab a column of values, or the sum of values in a specific column, given certain conditions and criteria of other columns in the same data tab. To break down conditional formulas, all of these use the same structure, no matter if you are using sum, average, count, or anything else. The first input of the formula is a range of cells that the calculation will be applied to, whether that's a selection of a couple of cells, an entire row, or an entire column. The second is a range where you want to check for specific criteria, where if you used an entire row in your first input, this has to match exactly. Then the third is the actual condition you want, whether you want to hard code a particular number or a condition, or if you want to reference a cell, which will take it as an input, whatever you type in there. You can continuously add more conditions by repeating the second and third inputs. Now let's update the formulas for every P&L line. Now that we are using formulas, anytime data changes in the source data, all of our calculations change with it. Let's add 1,000 to revenue in the source data. See how revenue, gross profit, EBITDA, and net income all increase accordingly? This is the power of using Excel. Next, let's expand the data source into something more complicated, where in our case, we will have several different companies worth of data here: ABC, M&O, and XYZ. If we use the same formulas as before, see how our P&L now totals everything up? This is not what we want. We only want the P&L for the specific company. Because we are using conditional formulas, we can easily fix this by adding in another condition. So for this condition, we will set it to the company name, which is column A, which we will then also type at the top of our summary table. And then when the formulas reference the two, it automatically pulls in only the information for that specific company. Now, let's expand our P&L for all companies in the data, so we have a side-by-side comparison. Since we have conditional formulas, all we need to do is copy the formulas over into their own columns and change the input condition to the company's M&O and XYZ. And the entire P&L updates automatically. Let's do a little bit more formatting, clean this up a little bit. There you go. This is a very simple version of a P&L. I hope you guys like this one. Remember to like and subscribe if you like content like this. And in the meantime, keep on practicing.